Why not start off the year with a nice fresh helping of Fragments of Silicon?
All right, welcome to 2023 and the first installment properly of Fragments of Silicon for the new year. We already did our Sunday review session, which was also the first day of the year, so it counts.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'm your host, Adam. Joining as always, our Galax and Petty fan. Right, let's get to the news. Galax, let's start off with you this week. How was your holiday?
We kept it pretty low key. We don't do anything particular day of Christmas. We stay at home and do family stuff. But what with my grandmother dying late in the year, my parents were really not really up to going out and doing a lot of shopping. So we mostly just had some good food and some of the usual stocking presents, but they just gave me and my sister money, and we got them minor things, restaurant gift certificate and stuff. And I got my sister a board game that we played when she came up to visit. That later that week, she was not there on day of. Then the day after Christmas, we went down to my mother's family for family Christmas, which likewise there was not as much stuff going on because that's the side of the family Grandma was from. But we again had a dinner, and I got to meet my cousin's kid, who is, I don't know, a few months old now. Still a baby, but nice to have. I look forward to being even kind of an uncle. I was always a little bit jealous when when people my age growing up got to have nieces and nephews. And then I was off pretty much the whole period because I had a lot of ETO to use. And then New Year's Eve is one of my friend's birthdays, so we were over there, and that was also pretty low-key, just hanging out and playing video games and snacking and stuff. So, yeah. Not much special happened with me.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's, I mean, video game-wise, it's still mostly been, Pokemon Scarlet and Splatoon 3. I think we did one episode of Macross with Mac while we were off, but we've missed a bunch due to mostly various Mac reasons.
Sorry, I've seen.
So yeah, that's pretty much nothing particularly new there.
Okay. And I guess if there's nothing else, over to you, Petty.
Where the hell to begin?
Christmas, usually.
Christmas we didn't do a whole lot just because, I'm the youngest in the house and I'm 30, so it was mainly just, a few presents on Christmas Eve and then just kind of hanging out. Let's see. I had the upper endoscopy finally. I don't have an ulcer, which is, I guess, kind of good and bad in a way. Good that I don't have an ulcer that could potentially rupture. Bad that we still don't know what the hell is going on and why I'm having this abdominal pain. So that's, I see the GI doctor follow up in like a couple weeks. And on like Christmas Eve, or yeah, it was like Christmas Eve, my CPAP machine decided it's gonna do the, it sounds like the motor in it is starting to give out. So I've been having a fun time going about how the hell we're gonna figure out what to do about getting it replaced. Because my doctor's office is trying to tell me, first off, that, oh, I need a whole new sleep study, and they need all this paperwork. And then my equipment provider's like, yeah, no, we just need a authorization from your doctor's office so we can get this handled. And now the doctor's office is like, well, we need a letter from your equipment provider basically saying how it would cost more to fix the machine than it would be to replace and all this other stuff. And I got sick of being the go-between and basically like, here's my doctor's office's number. You guys go hatch this out like adults while I go screaming in the other room. So hopefully they get this sorted out and I can hopefully get a machine relatively soon, because I have no idea how long, mine's gonna last.
Yeah. Like, you need that for sleep apnea, right?
Yes. So yeah, that's a fun thing to have to deal with at Christmas time.
No doubt.
And then I guess in kind of better news is my mom actually has a full-time job now. Hooray! She's going to be working at a local place called Hangers. They make custom like prosthetics and orthotics and stuff like that. And she's basically going to be checking people in, which, I mean, that's, decent and okay light duty work. Especially compared to, she was trying to see about getting a job at, I think it was Great Clips, and they were basically going to work her like a dog for $11 an hour. She said no, which I do not blame her on that. So yeah, she's going to be working in town now. She's technically going to be losing a little bit of pay, but when you factor in she doesn't have to make a nearly 2-hour round trip 5 days a week, it's basically going to even itself out with what she's going to be saving in gas. In fact, it may actually end up being a net positive. So that's going to be helpful, especially because she owes both my sister and I a lot of money. I think she owes my sister somewhere to the tune of $3,000, and me close to $400. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. And yeah, I guess in gaming news, I beat Pokemon Violet over the break. It's got some problems. Not gonna lie. We're probably gonna talk about this another time, but Switch definitely needs some kind of hardware upgrade. And then I also, on the Steam sale...
I wouldn't blame that much of it on the Switch.
If
the Switch has issues, but the problems with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are not just those issues.
We can get into that later, yeah.
We'll talk about that later, yes.
I also ended up getting on the Steam sale Sonic Frontiers, which I just beat, and oh boy, that's a game. That game is better than I thought it was going to be. It may be easily one of my top 5 Sonic games, and that's a lot. And I also ended up getting Cyberpunk 2077, which I need to clear some hard drive space for that.
I heard they managed to make it kind of good, actually.
Yeah, well, and
Eventually.
I also have now beef enough computer I can kind of overcome the, you know, issues it had, kind of like with Frontiers, where I almost got the Switch version and was like, oh god, this is a technical mess. Same with even the PS4 version, so it was like, yeah, I'll pay a little bit extra and get the PC version, which ran shockingly good. And yeah, I guess the only other fun thing is now that my mom finally has a job, I'm going to see about teaching my sister how to play the Digimon card game. Yay! I mean,
Okay.
it it's not the worst thing I could be getting her into, right? And yeah, I think that's it from me.
All right. That means it's my go.
Yes.
Let's see. My holiday was um, definitely more packed than years previous. Like, um, well, Christmas Eve was, since me and my mother went down to my younger brother's place and spent the afternoon with him and his family. And got them gifts. Um, let's see. Got them a, not exactly sure what to call it, but kind of this quadruped scooter for the oldest. Um, a very tall Barbie doll for the girl, and the youngest a bunch of Matchbox cars, Hot Wheels. I forget which brand,
Oh man, I
but
remember Hot Wheels from back in my day.
I do too. Let's see. Did manage to see my PCP right before the holidays began. Uh, Took a look at my hands. The good news is I tested negative for carpal tunnel syndrome.
Hooray!
Bad news is he could not identify the mysterious hand pain. So I got
Boo.
referred. Yeah. Well, I was expecting that
Yeah.
because, you know, anyway, so got the referral to an orthopedic hand surgeon, and that's happening February 1st. Like, and hopefully things get identified. Not exactly sure how they'll be testing, but you know, testing they shall be. And let's see, there have been some other family-related health issues, but I'll leave that off the table here.
Mm.
And yeah, that was my holiday season. So, merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And this week we are welcoming Ken of Stranga Games.
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah. So, how are you doing today?
Sorry for the delay.
Everything okay?
Good. Just
You need to talk louder.
cozy outside, I suppose.
Yeah. We're still having some volume issues.
Sorry.
There we go.
Go on.
Because I'm from Australia, so we have really bad internet here.
Fair enough.
Not our first Australian guest. Right then.
I just apologise for the delay. That's all. There's a bit of it.
Oof. Right then. So, how we like to start the interview proper is we like to get to know the people behind the games, the studios, and what have you. And we do this by asking this particular question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
So on a personal level, it was just interest, I think. I did make like video games back like after high school. So they were just like, small RPG maker games when the first lot of that came out. And I thought it was just fun, something to do. But on a professional level, I think it was just because they sort of just got picked up by like interest from a publisher one day and said, these look pretty good. So are you interested in like publishing? And I thought, why not? Just to get my foot in the door, and yeah, I'm now doing what I'm doing now.
Like, and how long have you been making games commercially?
About 6 years now.
Okay, that's a fairly long time. Like, and what was your first project?
My first project was, it was supposed to be like a smaller version of Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1. It's just like a fun thing to do. And it was put up on, I think it was the Game Maker forums a long time ago. And that eventually turned into my very first game called Mini Thief that I did with another guy from the US. And then we started making games from there, but I sort of branched off because we had to share it over a Dropbox. And while one was working on it, the other couldn't. So hence why I started looking around for other game engines that I could easily just pick up and make something with. And then I started making all these story adventure games, which I keep doing now.
And what did you end up settling on?
The story adventure games, because they seem to be more popular.
I mean, engine-wise, like, are you using Unity, Godot?
Oh, engine-wise. No, I use Adventure Game Studio. I have tried getting into Unity, but I'm still learning it. It's just it's the UI that's just still new to me and fresh to me. But because I've been programming in Adventure Game Studio for so long, I'm just so used to it. I can like code without even thinking now. It's just crazy. But I eventually want to move over to Unity, yes, just because it's much more flexible, has way more tools, and I think it's just easy to port, I suppose.
We've known a few developers who worked in Adventure Game Studio, like, mirrored the same thoughts. Yeah. Anyway, so the game we've got on display here is My Big Sister.
The only thing about Adventure Game Studio was oh, sorry for the delay again. It's mainly built for point and click games, but I just wanted to try and do something different with it. That's all.
Right. And we've got one of your story adventure games on display here, My Big Sister, specifically the remastered edition. and I believe we reviewed the original a few years back. But
We did. I think it was on PS4.
yeah. I suppose my first question in regards to this game is, why did you seek to remaster it?
Well, I wasn't originally planning to. It was only because after I made its prequel, the Ashina the Red Witch, it was supposed to line up with the original My Big Sister story. But because at the time of writing the original one, I was sort of just flunking it, the story wise. I didn't have anything really planned out. A lot of the story changed as development went through. And I wanted to sort of try and match it. But when I was trying to match Ashina's story to MBS's, the original one, it was just all over the place and it wasn't matching up here, there. So I thought, well, what can I do in the shortest amount of time to, try and fix this? And I think the best answer after I just spoke to my Discord community was just remaster it and change some story here and there. Just give it a nice, good facelift with like all the amount of detailing skills that I picked up over the years doing Ashina, and try and marry the story better with the prequel, just so it makes sense. It helps build the lore, and it helps sort of give more of a character arc to the original ones from Ashina as well, and from the original story as well. Just, I don't know, sort of like a beef up or something, like a nice new polish for it.
Okay. Trying to remember, was it Galax or was it Petty who reviewed Ashina the Red Witch?
I think it was me.
It wasn't me, I'm pretty sure, so.
Yeah. Anyway, so do you think you managed to make the remastered version of My Big Sister match up with Ashina?
I think it does. When I put it through beta testing, a lot of the testers came back and said it does match up a lot better with the new version of the game than the original did, and a lot of things do make sense. There's a lot of plot holes that were filled. Characters, changed a little. I didn't want to change anything too much, but just so they would make sense. And because I didn't want to change the original story because there was too many people that liked the original one. But they were happy with the changes. I made sure first before I released anything that there was fans that were already happy with it and testers that were already happy with it. So, yeah.
Okay. And can you provide some examples of what got changed in order to fit the new story hooks?
Off the top of my head, I think the whole plot with the main character Lucia, that got sort of changed to fit the narrative of Ashina, because in that game you find out she is a witch, and she's the reason why the events happen in My Big Sister as well. So I wanted to sort of marry that with that plot from that game, rather than in the original it was just like I had no idea what was going on, to be honest. The story was just unfolding as it goes, and I didn't really have a solid vision on it. But now that I do, her storyline makes more sense now, because it does call a lot back to the older games. And also, I fixed the story in the remaster to also call back to Red Bow as well, because that's another game that I sort of want to keep the lineage to play all the way through.
Oh.
Other
guess I
things
should.
include like some new level designs, I suppose. Like the whole train level was just flipped sideways now and shortened, so it wasn't so tedious like in the first one. And some of the characters they have the same personalities as they did in Ashina, as opposed to like the original game. So they're more very open now, and they got a lot more dialogue than they had before. So they're just fun to talk to.
Yeah. I suppose I should ask: is the or are the Just Ignore Them games connected to the Ashina games?
They are, but very vaguely. They they sort of want to. I sort of like to make my games stand on their own, so they're not 100% needed to play them in a certain order. So you can play them however you want. But then you'll pick up the references here and there. So if you do want a chronological order, you can put a bin one if you like, but the Just Ignore the ones do connect to them. But those are in the process of possibly getting some sort of maybe remaster or remake treatment, especially the first one, because that story is all over the place too. Because it was my very first story adventure game, and it was just could have been written a lot better. Or sorry, I could have wrote it a lot better. But yeah, they are connected. Like there is text between the two main characters in My Big Sister talking about some of the events that happen in Just Ignore Them. So I try to connect everything together just to make a small little universe, but it's just for the pure fun of it, really.
Hmm. And I suppose that beckons the question, and I'm not exactly sure how much you can go into it without delving into spoilers, but what would you rewrite and Just Ignore Them?
Mm-hmm. Probably most of the middle section of the story, and possibly the endings too. Like I want it to make more sense than if anything, because at the time of that game's creation too, that was just I was pulling stuff out of thin air while I was making it. So the story was all over the place. But now I've got more of a story writing mindset with my other last two games. I know how to structure it a lot better. Um, I need to give the main character much more of a better story arc. Same with the side characters as well. Um, in probably different locations, just so it's not the same stuff that you've seen before, but just something new and fresh. It needs something new and fresh, just so it looks as good as the latest new games, and the story plays out well too. So, story wise, they'll probably just give a fresh look at it, yeah, and just go from there.
Okay. And how would you say your story writing process has evolved over the past 6 years?
Well, now I actually write things down in a little notebook next to my computer, so I keep track of major plot points throughout as I write the story out, so I can refer back to them later on in the story. References here and there need to be addressed like throughout the story. If you're going to say something, it has to have an answer at the end. I do like to leave some things open though, um, particularly the endings, and just trying the main thing I just like working on. Sorry, is just to make sure everything makes most sense. Like mostly everything makes sense. Sorry, um, just so things connect better and people aren't confused about bits and pieces of the story. Unlike the original, like My Big Sister, it was kind of linear, but it was all over the place at the same time. So I sort of want to move away from that and just try. It tells straightforward stories, but still keep a bit of mystery to it.
Okay. And I suppose we should delve in a bit more into the. I'm not sure if you have a name for this series or not. Let's call it the Ashina Saga. Um, what are these games about?
Yep. To be honest, I'm not too sure. Like, they're just fun stories that I've made up from just things I like watching. To be honest, um, like there's a lot of Spirited Away sort of stuff in that, and um, just a lot of probably 90s references and stuff because I grew up in the 90s. I don't know. I just like telling fun stories. There's no like messages or anything in them. They're just purely for entertainment because I like to entertain through story media. But um, I sort of like making new things, but I just don't know why I connect them for. All this, they're all connected some way, and I don't know. It just happens. But yeah.
Got to admit that's a bit of an unusual ethos, but not unwelcome. Like, and though I'm talking more about like who is Ashina? Like, what's her story?
Oh, okay, yeah. Her story. She wasn't actually supposed to have a game. I just read a comment one day saying it'd be interesting if you could expand more of the characters out of My Big Sister, and I just thought she was interesting to write about. Like, she was probably the most mysterious one in that game, so I thought, like, why not? So yeah, that's just how that came to be. Like, ideas will pop up, and I'll just make a game out of it, I suppose.
And I suppose along those
Her as a
lines,
character. Her as a character. Oh, sorry.
Go on. No, go on.
With her character, I just wanted to make something a little different than the last two in My Big Sisters, just because the game was hit on a lot of depressive like tones. So I wanted to change it up a bit with the sister dynamic because it's just like the whole younger sibling, older sibling sort of banter between them. So I wanted to bring like the age gap up. So you've got two sisters around the same age and see how that dynamic works as well. But then pairing like Ash up with Tanto and just throwing like a wrench into the machine there, just to see how those characters react to. So because you put them in different situations and stuff like that. Just like in real life, you got to try and to adapt with what's happening in the scene and stuff like that. So it's a bit complicated to explain. So
Okay. And who is the big sister?
Sombria.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not sure. She's not based on anybody real or that I know. She's more just like, I don't know. She's based on things that I've seen. So um, with the original, like My Big Sister's development, like the story was supposed to take. Um, it changed halfway through the development. The story is just going to be straightforward, like a spiritual adventure game. Um, cursed sister, go on an adventure, uncurse, and back to the beginning. But during the development, my cousin passed away due to like I'd say self deletion consequences, and that changed the whole dynamic of her character to being that, and wanted to bring up a bit more on that subject because depression is like it's a big subject, and I'm sure everybody has had some sort of experience with it. So I wanted to make her character more like in that sort of, I don't know, state, I suppose, just so it makes a bit more, gives it a bit more awareness about the whole subject and stuff like that. But I thought it was interesting to see how a young child would react towards that sort of thing, as like they don't have the same mentality as, like, say, an adult does. So it was quite interesting to see the response from like people who really like Sombria as a character, and the amount of negativity Lucia got for the way she responded to a lot of Zombie's depression and her mental health and stuff like that. But she can't really blame her because she's a kid. So I thought it was just very interesting to write both those characters, actually.
Okay. So, do you have any ideas in terms of your next new adventure game?
I do. Besides Just Ignore Them is getting a revamp somehow. I have no idea when, though. I have been working on it, but my next adventure game is going to be a continuation of Ashina, but bypassing my big sister. So I wanted to do something fresh, but with the same characters that I already have, because a lot of people already like the same characters. So my next game is I don't want to spoil the title yet, but I can say that it's like an Asian futuristic cyberpunk setting, but with the same most characters from Ashina. Just to like continuate maybe the story and say like 1,000 years or something like that, just to put them in a different environment and let's see what happens there. I just love building environments anyway, so it'll give me a good chance to work on some new art and stuff like that for it.
Okay. And any plans to branch out of your current milieu? Like, do you seek to make something else other than
as in like other styles of games, or as in the genre?
both? Like, do you see yourself ever like writing one of these that isn't, say, horror focused in some way?
Yeah, that's. I think I'm going to take that new game that I was just mentioning into more of an adventurous sort of thing, because I do want to branch into more adventure friendly like games. I think because I just got stuck in a horror rut with like the boom of like indie horror games over the last 10 years. We all got stuck in it, so I sort of want to branch off it, but um, yeah, I just want more family adventure games, maybe more some sci-fi, like adventure games as well. Um, style of game, I don't know. I love making adventure games too much to give it up. I have like looked into other types of games, as in like moving on to 3D as well. Like I said, I'm trying to learn everything in my spare time because I have very little of it. I work like 3 jobs, so there's very little time to learn anything new at the moment. But when I do, I'd probably be pushing for, I don't know, either more of these adventure games, or I've tried platformers, I think, before. The only thing I wanted to try was something like a first-person shooter adventure game, but that's something just in the works. Like I got to learn how to do it and everything first, but when I get around to it, I possibly might do something. Other than that, I think I'm just going to stick with adventure games like this for forever. I just like them way too much, and making them is like a lot of fun.
Right. Right then. I think I've asked all the questions I wish to ask. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything further for you.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think you've answered most of my questions.
Yep, no worries.
Okay. Right. So Ken, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here at long last. Like, anyway, and we seem
Not a
to have
problem.
enjoyed
Thank you for
what
having
you've
me.
put out so far. Yeah, I'll stuck there. And we look forward to seeing what you make next, whether it be remaster or original. Right.
Thank you.
So, no problem. Petty, play us to the next segment. Right. Welcome to the annual rundown of the games that we reviewed over the past year. At least as much as we can do, because, we go through a lot of games in a given year, and
it's kind of harder for us to bounce off each other than it used to be when we got more of the same thing. But a lot of places don't give out multiple codes, and
yeah,
I think we're currently prioritizing trying to get a lot of things done. So,
well, like, even the one code is harder to do these days. Like, but, let's see. I do like, at the very least, we can definitely say last year was the year of the hidden object game.
hidden object game and associated visual novels, often by the same people. Plus, we ended up doing a relatively large number of republished retro games.
Well, that was my choice.
Mm-hmm.
And expect one of those trends to continue into the new year. Thankfully, it's not the hidden object game. Like, Ocean Media seemed to have run out of those to port for the time being, though they can always give us more. But there were quite a few non-hidden object adventure games this past year as well. But let's see here. Sorry, that's the wrong page. But let's see. There was also like Skydrift Infinity, which we started off the year with, which was a decent kart racing type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, last year saw the end of regular coverage of Radalaikia games.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I don't know, for whatever reason they stopped they stopped uploading games to the code site I went to. I mean, there's still some Radalaikia games here, like Bouncy Bullets 2 and Night Lights.
Yeah, but nowhere near as many.
No. Like, Ocean Media kind of took over that particular void. In terms of just bulk, staple reviews. And let's see, I would say that my worst game that I covered happened early in the year. Soda Drinker Pro.
Was that even a game?
No.
That's right. You didn't have that game.
No, I didn't.
I kind of blacked that one out from my
I'm
memory.
not sure if Penny remembers it.
Yeah, it was a thing that happened.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was one of those. Once again, I don't think we got enough games to call it a full-on trend, but
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely an undercurrent for last year where we got a lot of comedy games or games that were intentionally awful as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Soda Drinker Pro was definitely among those.
I think there were some of them that were funny in a kind of awkward way intentionally, but not like actually terrible. But yes, I know what you mean.
Like along the lines I'm speaking of from the same publisher, Find the Letter H and Retired Men's New Beach Volleyball League.
Yeah, I had that. That one was mostly just really awkward.
Mm.
And yeah, side view volleyball is not amazing.
Yeah. Let's see. Ghostlight Games did return for a spell, and emerged from their, I guess, localization pit to give us Mary Skelter 2,
Mm-hmm.
which was honestly more Mary Skelter. Like if you played the first game,
Yeah, if you're into Mary Skelter, it's more of that.
yeah,
Which
it's
is
like
dungeon crawling with fairy tale aesthetic, gothic Lolita aesthetic, kind of horror-ish, but like aesthetic so it doesn't really look gory.
yeah. And let's see, there was Risen, which earns the award for buggiest game I reviewed this year. Maybe not buggiest game I played. That was probably either Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas. But
Weren't there at least 2 things that you played that you couldn't actually get to load?
yeah, but I don't call those buggiest because sometimes that's performance issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially because with Adam playing on a laptop.
Yeah. With Risen, it was definitely the bugs. It's a PC-born RPG. Yeah, those usually are riddled with more bugs than a fucking ant colony. Let's see. Also worth noting, THQ was a regular provider of games, like This Is the President. A trend I would see happening into the new year as well. Just not everything of theirs I can cover. Like there are some games I've had to, once again, either because of performance issues or like the last game I had to drop was because I literally did not know how to approach it. Like it wasn't an RPG; it was a grand strategy game, and I do not know how or have the time to really review one of those. Let's see. The Vasara collection was was provided by Qbyte Entertainment, another regular publisher. That has provided us games over the years. And trying to remember some of these is, yeah. Like I do remember 99 Vidias, which was a decent brawling game. Good. And then there was, I'm only going over the games I covered because, I didn't play 2 Parsecs from Earth or 8 Souls.
Mm-hmm.
The Pepper Prince, that was, that was an interesting game. Yeah, and that is one thing I do like about our reviews. We do cover a very wide berth of games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and some of them are truly strange, downright unique. Like the Pepper Prince, it's an adventure narrative game built entirely out of ASCII characters.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. And one of my top picks of the year would be Watcher Chronicles. Don't remember
Mhm.
this. It's one of the games that's aping Dark Souls, but in 2D. And, you know,
And it's one that actually does an okay job of that.
it does an okay job, but it's um an issue with a lot of the 2D Dark Souls alikes or Soulsborns or whatever we're calling them this week is and I remember mentioning this in the review, is pacing. Because Dark Souls combat is actually rather slow, methodical, um, almost puzzle-like. And Watcher Chronicles is one of these that went off into the direction of Devil May Cry. Very fast-paced, hyperkinetic.
I feel like it's a
And
little easier to do faster in 2 dimensions because you have
yeah,
less options to be considering at any given time in terms of directions to go.
yeah, I'm not just arguing that. It's just merging those two gameplay styles does put it at odds with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. There was Black Jewel. Once again, one of the eternal trends we see on the program is not necessarily retro games, but retro games. Faux retro, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was a new game, but fashioned after a C64 title or an Amiga game, something like that. Let's see. You did have. I suppose the most inexplicable trend, not over the past year, just in general, is the minimalist abstract platformer, like the Flatland games that we
Mm-hmm.
talked. And we have covered other games in this style. Oh, they weren't as neon as Flatland was, but it's like, games that are so abstract that you're playing literal shapes and going up against literal shapes.
Which is fine, but sometimes the aesthetic doesn't convey the story you're going for is the problem I found them having. Or like, there's not, when you're playing Flatlands, I mean, aside from approaching it as basically a puzzle platform, which is kind of what it is, there's not a whole lot there.
No, and that's kind of the point of minimalism,
Mm-hmm.
But that's also kind of the flip side.
Mhm.
Since you are going as minimal as possible, there's by definition not a whole lot there.
Uh-huh.
And the Flatland games, all three of them, were definitely that. And I guess you want the flip side of what Flatland was in terms of artistic games, that would be please touch the art. In terms of mechanics, that was actually pretty simple. In terms of artistic movements, that was aping more like the pop art movement of and abstract expressionism of the mid 20th century. Yeah. Let's see. And we did get quite a few games from Whitethorn this past year before that relationship kind of collapsed. More due to our regular, and this has happened with other publishers. The regular contact leaves the company. See also the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild.
Mhm.
We used to regularly cover games till our point man left, and um, not really connecting with the new management, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like a favorite of mine from this past year was Aground, which was kind of a something. Was a something in the vein of like Minecraft or Terraria, but I actually enjoyed that one. Hard for me to enjoy kinds of games. Let's see. Another thing that got changed this past year is we have allowed early access, like Tumblefire. Although Tumblefire was a good example of why we didn't necessarily cover, but it's just early access is too established. But early access can be a whole range of things. And let's see. Like I said, there are a whole bunch of other games that I could go over. Other tops for the year were Makoko X and Hunter X. It was a really strong year for really both Soulsborne and Metroidvania, sometimes in the same game, like Hunter X. No, Makoko X is something else. Makoko X was one of my worst of the year.
Mhm.
But I kind of want to fast forward through some of this to find the other major trend that got mentioned. That starts.
If you're talking about the puzzle, the hidden object puzzle games, I think you gave those all to us.
No. The retro games.
Oh yeah, I remember I did Super Hunchback.
Yeah, here we go. It started in June. It looks like it started with Street Racer and Super Hunchback.
Mhm.
Um,
And these are
alongside-
mostly just ones that you picked out so that everybody had something to do on those weeks, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how it works the majority of the time these days because I ran out of codes on the code sites.
Mm-hmm.
Like, plus it's been the end of the year, so I had to fill the gaps some way.
Mm-hmm.
Few Steam sales. And let's see, I covered the Temple of Sneck and Diamo XL that week. Remember, the Temple of Sneck was basically Snake, but in puzzle form. And I forget what Daimyo XL it was. But a lot of the retro games we cover come from either Pico Interactive or Pixel Games UK, mainly because they got a lot of cheap games available.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's about all I want to cover in terms of general trends.
Well,
And
I have a couple of other things to add. Like, there were some good games. The Night Witch from last week was good.
Mhm.
Digimon Survive is good. But I had more than I like, I think at least, of games that are like baby games, like Super Dino, that was like really easy puzzles, or ABC Match With Me, which like they're fine, but they're not for people who are over like kindergarten age.
Once again, those were provided.
I know, I'm not blaming you. I'm just throwing in my sense on things.
Fair enough. Petty,
They're also
anything you
sorry.
is there anything you wish to get off your chest?
That Frogger game you sent us is from a special place in hell.
Yeah. Well, that was another retro one too. That
Yeah.
was like
Yeah, that was an actual retro game.
some
Yeah.
of the retro games are just actually bad. What
Yeah.
was the one? What was the one that I had that had the both versions?
I
Was it
know.
future? It was Future Night, wasn't it?
Yes.
I know that's brought about one of our few blacklisted, review things. Because oh god.
Mm.
But yeah, there were some visual novels which varied in quality, but don't have a whole lot of gameplay to make them memorable. Especially with the amount of time I have to play them usually. The Faircroft's Antiques thing, I don't get. And
Resounding
again,
meh.
yeah, like at least they're going for a plot there. There were a few traditional, like Captain Brow is a traditional, or Brave, whatever, is a traditional visual novel or traditional adventure game. I think Carl was the one that was actually a decent puzzle platformer.
Mhm.
The Pizza Deliverer Boy Who Saved the World was one of the ones I was talking about where the humor is weird. The visuals are all like photographs that are chopped up, so it kind of looks questionable, but there's actually a little bit of creativity and decent humor in there, and it's not like bad. So, um, I think I was a little bit disappointed in Shovel Knight Dig, but only because I really, really liked the previous ones and held it to a high standard. So I'm not saying it's bad, but it's like not as improved as I expected.
Yeah, that's where I came down on Shovel Knight Dig. It's the Shovel Knight game I liked the least outside of Shogun.
Uh huh.
You know, mainly because honestly, I saw the concept done better in the SteamWorld games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess other games to talk about. Let's see. Once again, Pager Crystal Caves needed more seasoning. ODT Escape or Die Trying was a good example of how games can age badly. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and Road Frog is the game you were talking about, Petty.
Yes. Oh my god, how can you make Frogger but this terrible?
I do want to give a special shout out to War Dogs Red's Return, mainly because the one of the developers of the game found the review on YouTube and liked the review so much he agreed to be on the program.
Oh man. I only
Yeah.
had that a few times where devs found our
Yeah,
reviews and have actually taken criticism from them.
yeah. In fact, boy Ken from Stranga Games here, he actually found the show via a review of one of his games.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
This
they're
is
just
why we tend to not just straight up bash games we don't like unless they actually deserve it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I wanted to bring this up since I found it while I was going through the list of things. You guys reviewed Vampire Survivors, and there was another Vampire Survivors alike?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
And the one,
last week.
yeah, and the one that I had was Spirit Hunters Infinite Horde, which was significantly earlier. It's another you're moving around, auto attacking, killing infinite things, pretty much.
mm-hmm.
Super
And
Turtle Carnage, I think, is what you're thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah, Super Turtle Carnage was the game I and Petty had.
right.
We-
And Vampire Hunters we also did a review of,
Yeah.
but Spirit Hunters Infinite Horde I had earlier in the year than all of those.
Right.
And I hadn't heard of Vampire Survivors at that point, although I had heard of, I think, one of the spin-offs of it.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I just wanted to bring that up since I'd mentioned a few times that I was trying to remember.
Yeah,
that
let's see.
game.
Out of the traditional adventure games, I think the best I played was the Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, followed by Brock the Investigator, and then the Plague Doctor of Ripa. Though Brock the Investigator, not strictly speaking a traditional adventure game, it's an adventure game combined with a brawler, awkwardly.
Mhm. Another
Um,
game that I kind of wanted to get more into, but I only had the demo of, was Nightmare Reaper.
right. Yeah, Nightmare Reaper was the better of the boomer shooter games I played this year. The other being Her.
Yeah, because you have not played Ultra Kill yet, right?
No, we did not get Ultra Kill.
Yeah.
Or at least we haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah, I know I own it, so if we ever actually do get that put in the review queue, won't need
Yeah.
to worry about getting me a code.
But from New Blood that we did review was Dusk 82,
Yeah.
which
Was a
was not what
disappointment.
I wasn't expecting that. I was honestly expecting something out of the I thought it was going to ape the original Castle Wolfenstein.
Something like that, yeah.
But, this was another roguelike, and it was definitely Dusk in rogue form. I'll give it that.
Mm-hmm. But not in the good way.
I'll be honest, I found it too easy.
I guess fair. I know it kind of just bored the hell out of me, so it might have been just too easy for me.
Let me see. Other games. Once again, to show the uniqueness of our review queue, Quixote Quest for Glory. Like that was, that was certainly a trip. A strategy game based off of Don Quixote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another really, probably my game of the year, Voodoo Detective.
Mm.
Just the right amount of adventure game and logic.
I will say Digimon Survive is probably one of mine, but that's one of the few times I actually bullied something onto the review queue because I liked it so much.
Right. Let's see. Other games here.
I know there has been a lot of turn down of PS4 games this year just because most people are switching to the PS5.
Yeah. Similaris Dice King was another one I really liked. And spent 2 years in the review queue. It's something I kind of forgot about. Oh yeah, another really good game worth picking up is Timothy and the Tower of Mu. The Dark Heart of Balor needs more early access seasoning.
I guess similar that probably could use some more time in the oven is Hacker Simulator.
Yeah. Let's see. Probably the best straight up retro game I played this past year was Bounder.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked at how good that was. Like,
yeah, it's clear that even some pretty early games have aged well. Yeah. It's just there are also some that haven't.
On the flip side of that, 8 Eyes. In that, no, this was never good. It's like, though 8 Eyes and by extension ODT or Escape or Die Trying, these were good examples of bad games that made me appreciate what good games do.
Yeah.
In 8 Eyes
or they might have been better if we played them back in their time, but we have so much better options now.
No, 8 Eyes made me appreciate Castlevania.
Well, I was more
Um,
talking about Escape or Die Trying, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well, ODT made me appreciate what Tomb Raider did. I mentioned that in the review.
Mhm.
But yeah, Eight Eyes was the one that was like, well, on the other hand, Castlevania 2 does have its upsides.
Yeah, it's like it gave me range.
I forgot about.
Yeah, it's like
Oh god, that was
Eight Eyes.
Hey,
bad.
you can like vaguely tell your bird to go after things.
Vaguely, I think might be overselling that, my dude.
Yeah. Anyway, we could go on, but I think this is a good point to wrap up. Like, so yeah, and that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Let's see, coming up on the week ahead, we do have a new episode of MSP happening in about 30 minutes or so. Got to give Max travel time into account. Although he's definitely
So
gotten
3 months.
He's definitely gotten better about it. Although I did see his panicky message in one of his Discord servers. So hopefully, hopefully his latest bout of debt isn't going to hamper things there. But anyway, on Friday, January 6th, we'll be talking to Christian of Mechanical Moves about the game Boss Wars. And hopefully everyone got their copy fixed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So look for
Turns
that
out
on Friday.
Steam is dumb sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Steam. It was the codes he gave out.
Well, I guess
It
still
turns out
the fact that you can't easily fix that and have to make new codes because Steam is dumb sometimes.
it got fixed.
Yeah.
That's the important part. Anyway, until next time, I shall wish you almost forgot the games. Hang on, got to get to the right game list here. Right, so on the Sunday reviews this week, we'll be covering Geometric Sniper, Scriptic Interactive Crime Drama, Chrono State Electric Connection, and Soccer Story. So until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.